I think they were very excited to get him at the deadline out of San Jose. 20-goal scorer. Seemed to be a perfect fit. I mean, it was a pretty small sample size, the 20 games in the regular season, and then first-round playoff series against Toronto. Clearly, they see something there in going 3 years, Elliotte, with Zetterlund. What were your thoughts on getting him into a 3-year deal? We talked about all the right shots in Ottawa, and he is one of them that they've committed to.
Well, I just really like the player. So I think it's going to work out well. Some people said to me they thought the number 4.2 was high, 4.275. I disagree. Number one, you bought a year of unrestricted free agency, and two, like whenever arbitration's involved, and it would have been involved in this particular case, then the thing about that is that teams get a lot of help, and so do agents. Like this is where your Roland Lees come in. And, the people at the league who specialize in arbitration, they know to the penny what a player should be asking for and what he should be settling for. So I think with these particular cases, whenever players sign, like nobody's looking at this and saying it's an unheard of crazy number. Like these things are pretty scientific. I just think Zetterlund, he got traded out of nowhere right by the deadline. I mean, that's why remember we talked last pod about how special it was that it worked out for Marchand so well?
Yes.
Like more cases work out like Zetterlund did. Like your whole life is thrown into chaos. You just got traded halfway across the continent, and your slot in the lineup is a little, not less secure, but less solidified because all the right-hand shots, and you're not coming in with Brad Marchand's pedigree, right? So I just assume that they figure it all out, and they've traded good assets for him. He's a good player, and they're gonna find places for him to play. I know there's a lot of angst around Giroux. We're starting to see guys sign now. Donato signed the other day in Chicago. Duchesne signed in Dallas. So we're starting to get there. But I really don't worry about any of these things, Kyle, until we get closer to the draft.
Okay.
Like the one thing is, like, you have to decide. Like, this is what happened last year with Gensel and Carolina. Carolina waited and waited and waited, and then Gensel just said, fine, I'm going to UFA. It's you always have to weigh that with the guy you're dealing with. When you still have time, it's not over yet, but right before the draft, you start to worry, okay, if I don't do this, is the guy just going to say, forget it, I'm going to go to the market? That's what you have to know. So on June 20th, which is when this podcast drops, I'm not so worried about it, but on June 27th, I might be.
Yeah, draft a week from today, Elliotte. And one thing I'll just add on Zetterlund, we talked about, and you pointed out in the information you had heard about the internal numbers on McDavid and just how unlucky he was in the Stanley Cup final. I wouldn't say it was quite at that level with Zetterlund coming to Ottawa, but I think that was definitely part of the production not being quite where it was. There was some bad luck involved. I just think the team is kind of banking on, they've got a good player there. They've got a guy that can shoot the puck, got a lot of good years ahead of him. I think that's probably why they were comfortable going 3 years and at the number that they did. Okay, that'll take us to the final thought, which is brought to you by GMC. Elliotte, a few other UFA names off the board. You mentioned Donato, you mentioned Duchesne, but the headliners, questions still about them. Mitch Marner, John Tavares, Nick Ehlers. Where would you like to start on those three?
Well, it was funny. So Marner, on one of our last pods, we talked about how the word around Marner was that they were going to set up meetings for him, whether Zoom or in person, around July 1st, maybe July 2nd, and Marner might take a visit or two before he picks where he wants to go. And I actually heard a lot about that over the week from a bunch of different executives and teams. And they said it's a really good plan with one major flaw. And I said, okay, what's the major flaw? And they said, what happens if a team that Marner really likes says, here's our offer on July 1st, and it's on the table until tomorrow. Because we can't afford to wait for you to go through a process like this. We have to know, because if the answer is you're not coming, we have to race to plan B. So that might be the plan, but a few teams said to me that someone is going to go in there and say, we're not doing this. Here's our offer.